Good morning, and we're going to kick off Sunday here for the GT World Challenge with the Special Saloons and Modsports qualifying session. Busy day for the runners in this field because they've got two races, one race 5 and the second one will be race 9. A huge array of cars, and celebrating the life of Ricky Parker Morris, so long a supporter of this classic sports car championship series, running mod sports cars and special saloons across the years, died very sadly earlier this year. And in tribute to him, it is a cracking field of cars sitting in the paddock, hearing them rumbling past, including that bizarre 6.3 litre V8 engine Morris Minor just seen leaving the pit lane. They've only got 20 minutes to go and qualify, and then of course the two races later today. Huge diversity, and a lot of these cars have been raced for a very long time, since the 1980s, some of them. Some raced in Thunder Saloons, and it's just great to see them out, and some even from earlier than that. Look out for Baby Bertha, the super famous Vauxhall, the Firenze that Jerry Marshall made so famous, and Joe Ward will be at the wheel of that this morning. Track conditions absolutely fine, nice, warmish morning, much better weather than yesterday where the clouds hovered and occasionally dropped a little bit of rain that just added to the interest. And 999 is the Bernie Chodosh Simon Lane Chevrolet Corvette of the Mark I vintage. Some cars with wings, some with space frames. Ford RS200, that's one of the cars going out. Wayne Crabtree, that's the Abe Speed car, 2-litre engine. And again, a lot of classic race liveries. Vaillant, such a popular livery with its turquoise colours back in the day. So a sight a lap, and for a lot of these drivers, just they relish the chance to go out and compete on the full Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch. A real chance for their cars to stretch the legs, but almost not a straight to talk of. In fact, just out of Surtees, where you see the friends are going around, there is a chance. It's a kink straight, up over the rise, you sort of crest, and then down Pilgrim's Drop the cars will go, and then up Hawthorne Hill, gradient change just fabulous at Brands Hatch, up to Hawthorne, such a brilliant fast corner, but get it wrong and you'll be on the grass on the outside. But right now it's all about being sensible, getting some heat into the slick tyres and building up, but with only 20 minutes for qualifying, it's all about getting that time in and then seeing what you can do to build from there. We did have some stoppages yesterday, so the drivers well aware they can't hang around. Ooh, smoking a little bit, the Corvette. Not sure it's supposed. I think it's just a bit of overfill on the oil, but let's hope there's not too much dropping out the side as Bernie Chodosh rumbles around the circuit. So in fact, Bernie's possibly spotted maybe a bit of overheating, and he's coming in very wisely before more gets dropped on the circuit. 6.3 litre Morris Minor. I'm sure that's not how they left the factory back in the day, not with a rear wing like that as well. But actually, I think being a little bit careful there. Maybe all is not right for Craig Percy, but great to see that car out there. Maybe he simply just wants another sight lap before he starts to wind it up. Somebody been off, a little bit of debris flying in the circuit. This is as though someone's clipped one of those braking boards, but can see no evidence of that. Another famous livery, the Castrol livery on the Mark II Escort. Still looks crisp today. Zach Speed ran those with great form, particularly in the German races. That Minor really is having certain issues. It trots its way around the circuit, hasn't got into a canter, certainly not to a gallop as yet. And again, looking at these cars, it was the very essence. You, of course, had the British Saloon Car Championship in the day, but lots of people wanted a little bit more speed of their cars, so strip everything out from the inside, and you had a Special Saloon or a Mod Sport, and a lot of these cars raced year in, year out, even for several decades, and it's just great to see some of the cars almost of my childhood back out here competing today. So just waiting for the first cars to come through and start putting some flying laps on the boards. As I say that, Rod Burley, her name has won 1 million races at Brands Hatch, or very nearly. BMW E36, his is the first time over the start-finish line. 1 minute 42.9 seconds. That's 5 seconds clear of Josh Ronchetti, who's running in the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus, the prime racing example, black and silver. Right, who is going to be able, if anybody can, to challenge the modern engine group, which is being led by Rod Burley in that BMW. Now we've got a car within 3 seconds. It's car number 17. That's Ian Hall in a Darien Wildcat, but he's got plenty of power under his right foot. 6 litres of roar away, soar away fun. Dan Minton sharing with Steve Minton, Ford Escort Mark II. They are running around in third place, 3.6 seconds. So Rod Burley really has laid down a marker. Maybe that's going to be a lap in its own right that's good enough to be at the top of the charts. But Josh Ronchetti, there it is. Sorry, I said black and silver, it's black and orange. I heard it rumble past me when I was having a quick coffee down in the paddock this morning. But Josh, fourth fastest in the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus, 2.7 litres. Great fun cars in the day, but having it stripped out and wings added and ever wider wheels must make it a real hoot. The Bullet, it says, and it's certainly going very well indeed. And we've got someone who's got a whole lot closer, Alan Cooper in the Nike Imp. He's just under 2 seconds down on Rod Burley, so he's taking the battle. And never enough limited. I think a lot of people here at Brands Hatch can sympathise with that sentiment. Never enough power, that's certainly the case. But round Brands Hatch, of course, you need the handling as well. Josh Ronchetti, second time over the start-finish line. Improves up to second place. He's within 9/10 of a second of Rod Burley. So 1 minute 40.8 plays 1 minute 41.7. And 157 goes for a spin, unfortunately, sitting sideways across the track. But that should be moved fairly quickly. And the rather more than MG Midget continues on its way. 147, driven by Moon. Looking to see where the moves are going to go. Dan Minton still going well in third fastest in his Escort Mark II. Josh Ronchetti picks up his pace yet more. In fact, faster around the first part of the lap than the provisional pole starter Rod Burley. So Ronchetti just carries fantastic speed down Pilgrim Drop. As I said, effectively the one straight that is almost straight at Brands Hatch. Almost everywhere else, even if it's clouded as a straight, it's curving, so the drivers have so little chance to relax. And Ian Hall is starting to go better and better in the Darien Wildcat. Oh dear, another faller. Will that bring out the yellow flags? That's certainly beached in the gravel there. And that could interrupt a few laps, but Ian Hall around the fastest of anybody in the first sector of the lap. Josh Ronchetti, but he's had to back off, so what he gained in the first part, he's lost 5 times over by backing off in the middle section of the lap. Out of Stirling's he goes, so hopefully for him next time around that would not be obstructed by that car that's sitting in the gravel. And there is a replay of the spin. And a dusty conclusion, and when the session is as short as this, the chance to regain the circuit and set a decent qualifying time has effectively been removed from that particular one. So 9/10 of a second down in his best across the start finish. Oh dear, Triumph Dolomite Sprint. The smoke billows away. I'm just trying to work out if that's David Claxton. Can't quite see the number on the door with all the smoke and steam issuing forth. Mainly steam by the looks of things. Oh, the Jägermeister liveried Ford Capri going very slowly, waiting to exit the pits. But I think cars are slowing on the start-finish straight. I'm just trying to see what signalling is out there. But the orange Capri, very lurid, comes out here. Car 84, in fact, it is David Claxton. So a few cars having a few problems early on, which is very disappointing if it means they're not going to get to race. A, we won't get to see them, and B, they won't get to do 2 races on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. So David getting out, he's done all he can to try and abate what's there, but certainly one presumes a pipe has come loose, and that Dolomite Sprint sitting idle at the side of the circuit's cars actually coming to a halt. It's red flag, it's red flag. Just had to look, I could see a flashing light. There are the marshals waving their flags. So Rod Burley fastest by 0.88 of a second from Josh Ronchetti. So it's the BMW number 44, top of the charts. Josh Ronchetti in the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus in second place. And didn't really get to talk about the car that's moved up to third place. It's 176, it's Southcote in third, who just moved ahead of Dan Minton. So an abatement, effectively, while the car that's sitting out in the gravel needs to be removed, and also a chance maybe to get that Triumph away from the side of the track where it's pulled off. Car 93, Gary Cole, Citroen BX. Looks as close to standard bar, obviously stripping out what's within. And also BX did go rallying in period in the Group B days, but it's never won right at the top. But obviously it's a bit like the Nürburgring long distance series. There are a couple of cars in there that just look so standard, and then you get the GT3 cars powering past them. It's always quite entertaining, but got to be out there. So that's Kirby Automotive repair with the Citroen BX. But one does feel a 1.9 litre Citroen BX against what's the biggest engine in the field? The biggest engine is 7.7 litres in Corvette C3. I don't know if I've seen that as yet. Car number 92 should be out. Yeah, can't see anyhow down the list. But the cars are being waved, some of them going back into paddock. They're all going back into the paddock, the back way around the pit, and then forming up in the pit lane, waiting for the restart. So I did say in a 20-minute session, you do need to get a time in early on. The clock has stopped with 11 and a bit minutes remaining in this session. But a few drivers, let's hope what early problems they had can be behind them now. So there is Josh Ronchetti, car number 13, the Bullet, sitting third on the table. He's 1.7, sorry, he's second in the table. He's 0.88 of a second down on Rod Burley, who's 44 BMW, just was the class of the field. 3.1 litre power for him in his E36. So the field snaking their way through. They've got to do it all over again, but do it better, because we had a few spinners. And those cars will be removed from the gravel beds. And in this packed field, it's about all the drivers getting out there and finding a bit of space on the track in which they can lay down their times. Again, revisiting liveries of the past with cars of the past. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these cars could have had these liveries. Kramer Porsche, entirely so. Bob Wallach was driver the great late Bob Wallach, who carried these colours for years. And again, Jägermeister, not always on a Capri. In fact, there is a collection in Germany, I think, of every car that raced in Jägermeister colours. I don't think they've got this one because it's here. And Aston Martins, they were always mighty in Modsports series back in the day. And car number 20, Ricky Can showing with Sam Wilson. Aston Martin V8 Vantage, 5.3.5 litres. Fantastic, just a great rumble. I mean, not just when it passed through the paddock this morning to make its way around towards the collection area before going out onto the track, but once they really start to open up. And those big V8s just fantastic. And the car with the largest engine is right in behind. That's 7.7 litres of Chevrolet power in Neil Vaughan's Corvette. Ah, good. 175 Mike Johnson Motorsport back on the move. So we're just waiting to see whether the Dolomite can be brought back in as well, but doesn't look to be any damage. It's a little bit of gravel. So that was the gravel bed at Sheen Curve. Very enticing corner, going a little too fast, and the gravel is there waiting for you. Valvoline, another epic livery of the past. And car 65, Steve Frey, Garage 83, Popular Motors, Space Frame, Ford Mondeo. I do quite like orange racing cars for some particular reason. That's Clive Anderson, his Team Prism Motorsport BMW E3. They look good in the day, they look good in the night. And it looks good to look under the bonnet, but I guess they'd prefer the bonnet was back down and they could go out racing. But if it's a problem, they are being bought a bit of time to get it sorted during this red flag period. Bonnet back down, Jamaican flag on the hood. So let's see how's that done so far. It's middle order, 18th place on the charts as we stand, and we've got about 40 runners in the field, so that's just into the top half. Again, every shape and form of car, from the great days of Modsports and special saloons of the periods and trackside recovery, out there hooking up the Triumph Dolomite Sprint that is sprinting nowhere fast. Very frustrating there for David Claxton. And David was towards the tail of the field, but had only really got one flying lap on the board. Ah, good to see the Bernie Chodosh Corvette is ready to go back out. That's been pulled in after its outlap, having issued a fair bit of smoke out of its exhaust. A little more than planned, but good. Whatever has been overfilled or whatever it was that was causing that leak onto the exhaust presumably has been fixed. Mad Panda at Motorsport competing here today, and there is a large panda out on South Bank, so people, no, it's not, it's on the exit of Druids, so maybe that's put there for Ezekiel Porry's compact to aim at as he goes around showing his car this weekend in the GT World Challenge with Rick Brokers. Quite a lot of classic sports cars brought in this weekend, lined up on for the fans to look at as they come in through the main entrance. Now, Baby Bertha. go back in time. This was where dealer team Vauxhall DTV just put the cat among the pigeons. Bill Blydenstein built these beauties, and Jerry Marshall just drove them as though they were just lightweight race. I mean, they obviously clearly are lightweight racers, but he made these cars dance in the period, and so much grunt, and it's just fantastic to have it out here. And it almost didn't seem to be a race meeting of the day if Jerry wasn't popping into the Kentagon to celebrate after yet another win. Absolute superstar. And those cars evolved. Baby Bertha, Big Bertha, all came out to play. More and more size, more and more noise, all appreciated by the fans of the day. And Baby Bertha modelled on the Firenze during Vauxhall's Italian period. So for David Claxton, he'll be catching a lift home in the rescue truck along with his yellow Dolomite Sprint. Good to see fans in today, and it was great catching people coming into the circuit. It's just great to have people back on the spectator banking, and of course it's such an intimate circuit at Brands Hatch with the bowl, the stadium section. Always feel as though there's a crowd here, and a great chance for people through this packed day of racing to walk out and do what I always used to do, find different vantage points each race. And it's just fantastic out on the Grand Prix loop where you can just see the drivers really getting to stretch the legs of their cars. Ford RS200, such a popular car in period, and just sort of came good as really after great showings, but it really came on strong as Group B rallying came to the end. And then as that came to an end, that was an absolute gift for Rallycross, and RS200s were mighty in that, including some of the great Brands Hatch Rallycross Grand Prix of the period, where they ran around the top of South Bank into Hoppy's Drop and then back onto the circuit, around the Indy circuit, and just such a spectacular form. Will Gollop just seemed to be quicker than anything around in his MG Metro 6R4. And we're going to have to tick them off. We're going to have an I Spy book of retro race liveries. We can give you Vorsteiner, we can give you Jägermeister, we can give you Vaillant. You see if you can spot them, and it's not just in this race for the Modsports and the Special Saloons. You'll find them across a lot of the other races. There was an Essex Formula 1 Lotus livery from 1980, or was it 1981? It says W Sussex, West Sussex instead. I see where they were going with that one. And a smiley-faced Hillman in the pits. Oh, good to see that 176 looks ready to play again after its little moment out in the gravel. It's great to have that in the mix as well. So rather ignominious return, but hopefully it's something that can be fixed on the Dolomite Sprint of David Claxton. Hopefully it is something very simple, but that is not to be delivered back to the pits directly. Can't remember if they came in that very pale primrose yellow in the period, but quite possibly, actually, it is a rather 1970s colour. I never remember, is that the national racing colour of Egypt? Certainly one of the pale colours when all the teams ran in their national colours back in the not all of them, but most of them in the 1950s. So, battle is rejoined. We have just over 10.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session for two races today. Race 5 and race 9 on the race agenda. We already had races 1 and 2 that brought yesterday's activity at Brands Hatch to a conclusion, and very entertaining they were. Again, great, huge fields and great diversity. And that always makes for fun racing, and it really is as it was back in the day. And just such a fantastic array of cars. And with this many cars, of course, particularly with the performance range, the differential between these cars, trying to make sure you don't get blocked on a lap, you have to have a bit of patience and maybe lose a second here or there, but in the long run, if you're in something quick, you ought to get your way to the front. But you do only have 10 minutes unless you've managed to get a sensible time in. Cars did 5 laps first time around, so an out lap take care of one of those, and the slowing down lap to come into the pits another. So they had 2 or 3 shots to get a proper flying lap in. Still waiting, of course, with the safety car running around at the head of the field just to check all is clear. Waved yellow flags still out at various points around the circuit. So for all the drivers really sensibly treating this as an outlap. But there is the driver who's fastest of all. Looks innocuous in so many ways, that E36 BMW, but Rod Birdie in a special saloon at Brands Hatch, it's never innocuous, and his best time, nearly 9/10 of a second clear of the rest. Let's see what he can do, but certainly there were other challengers starting to put in some quick times behind him, but then they were interrupted by that red flag. But if it ends as it is now, Rod Burley in the 44 black BMW will be at the top of the charts. Baby Bertha still in the pits, but just now moving away, so they're not going to have a lot of time. Baby Bertha's going to set a time. That's driver Joe Ward, car number 61, but it's stuck in the pits, just sitting behind a Triumph TR7 that gets going. So still going slowly on the outlaps, just waiting for signal about release. Just got to check when the safety car comes in. No, the car's now starting to wind it up. Good. Clear track, off we go. Aston Martin V8 Vantage coming up to the top of the hill, just in front of Rod Burley. That's car number 20, driven by Ricky Can. So again, just trying to get clear signals why the drivers are all running slowly. What is the instruction? Oh, the safety car is still only just now turning into Surtees, so doing a further lap around the circuit. And the next car behind it is that Gulf livery, the pale blue and orange striped Aston Martin V8 we saw just a few moments ago going up into Druids. Oh dear, we've got a tumbler this early, so they rejoin, and number 88, that's Michael Scott and Chris Scott at the side of the circuit, a Vauxhall Cavalier space frame. Certainly didn't leave the factory at Luton with big rear wings like that, but that was the whole essence of special saloon racing. So slight frustration for the drivers having to run at this abated pace with the safety car at the front of the queue, but it does mean for those who had slight problems, they do get a chance to just actually check them out. But they will want to be released, because as it stands, Rod Burley has got pole position. He's running third in the pack of the cars. That is his 44 BMW, right in behind the number 57 Escort Mark 1. 57 driven by Tony Paxman. Competition engines, and he pulls to the side of the circuit. Oh dear, another car stopping, hazard lamps on. That's out at Westfield, so he's just climbed up, sorry, it's at Hawthorns. So some cars are going slowly and some cars are now stopping. This is really unfortunate. Two cars stopping on effectively the safety car led pack out onto the circuit, so more waved yellow flags. Safety car still out on the circuit. I was rather hoping it would come in last time around. Definitely was hoping it's going to come in this time around. Tiny little red entry there, the Suzuki SC100, Claxton Racing, Neil Claxton in among the batch of cars. But look here, the diversity is phenomenal, but what we want to see is phenomenal pace, and hopefully these cars will get released to go out and play at the speed they need to play at. Oh, 57's got going again, okay. And now the session has been brought to an end, so Rod Burley has taken pole position. A little bit unfortunate with these stoppages. Waved yellow flags and the checkered flag, so the drivers will understand that one when they get around. It should be the Aston Martin coming around first, but it's actually Rod Burley. Maybe the Aston Martin has rumbled past. Yes, he has already. So they will see that. They'll acknowledge that their session has been curtailed, and they'll be coming into the back of the pits, then returning to the paddock. But they're due out for the first of their two races later today. So there is the pole qualifier, Rod Burley. I must say, though he qualified by nearly 9/10 faster than anyone else, there were certain drivers, Josh Ronchetti among them, who were really looking to wind up a challenge, and it could well have come, but we'll never know for now. So Ronchetti in the just going out of shot as the sun shines on the drop from Paddock Hill down to, and then the climb to Druids. He is second on the grid, and Southcote is third fastest in 176, and then 75 was starting to look very, very punchy indeed, and didn't get a chance to sort of put the lap together that could have put it right towards the front. That's Dan Minton in the Ford Escort Mark II. So huge diversity. Didn't get to see them other than for probably two real flying laps, a proper gallop. Didn't get to hear some of these massive engines really opened out to show what they could do at Brands Hatch. But we do have a chance to see them coming out to compete in two races later today. And if all things are equal, they should put up some really, really good racing. The first, the Special Saloon race, is actually at 1:15. The second one will bring the meeting to a conclusion, starting at 6 o'clock at Brands Hatch this Sunday. But there is something very much to look forward to, because the next item on the agenda is the first of the two races for the Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS, the Sprint Series. And now we've got the cars being weighed off the track, so it's all over for these mod sports and special saloon runners. And again, the value of getting a decent lap in early on is going to be shown. And I do sense that in this grid, with some of the drivers not having managed to do that before the session was red flagged, there will be some drivers who've got something to prove in the race and should be able to pick their way up through the field. So let's take a look at the results. E36 BMW at the top of the field for Rod Burley. Another pole for Burley at Brands Hatch. Now, how many is that? Jos Ronchetti pushing very hard. And then Chris Southcott, the third fastest. Dan Minton starting to wind things up, but again, one of the drivers frustrated. Ian Hall tucked in behind in 5th place overall. And Ricky Can and Sam Wilson in the Aston Martin V8 Vantage very much in the mix in 6th place overall. Wayne Crabtree in the RS200, Ford RS200 7th. Alan Cooper in 8th. Joe Ward in 9th. And look out for Joe, he's got power under his foot. He's got the baby Bertha Vauxhall. He's 9th. And completing the top 10, Tony Davis, just ahead of Danny Morris. So that is your top 15 on the screen. Jack and David Gadd, 13th and 15th. And the field is so large it goes on way off the bottom of this. But John Cockerton around the middle order, 10 seconds off the pace. But you know it's going to be faster than that. And again, huge array of different sorts of cars. The Claxtons, Colin and Neil, 19th and 20th. So great quality out here at Brands, but it's the diversity that will entertain in this battle for Special Saloons and Mod Sports. Looking forward to their 2 races.